It's Wednesday, which means it's social media maneuvers time. So you guys go ahead, start lining your comments up. Use the hashtag LouieTeeLive to have your comment read on the air. Feeling good about this week's slate of games. I needed a week like last week, and I'm back to myself, back like cook crack. And now I'm starting to get that championship swag. You know what I mean? And I'm going to have to pull one out of my hat on Thursday because shit's just got really interesting. You know, injuries are a big part of an NFL season. We talk about this. It's not a sprint, but rather a marathon. It's a war of attrition. All of the old adages you've heard over the years. Shit's getting really interesting because injuries are starting to mount for a number of teams around the National Football League. Let's kick off this 215 edition of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast right now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 215th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Thursday night football, Browns, Broncos. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'll give you my Thursday night look ahead. But really, the beginning of this show is going to start piggybacking off of that football game because of all of the injuries the Browns have suffered. And you know what? Let's just get straight to the proceedings this evening. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get to thinking a little bit. So, injuries are a big part of any NFL season. Generally, when we look at the teams who are playing the best, or we look at the teams at the end of the season that finish with the better records, a lot of times it's the teams that are the most healthiest, okay? So everybody deals with injuries. No one's absolved from injuries totally. But there are teams out there that are a lot less banged up than other teams around the league. You know, as a Washington football team fan, last year was a revelation for us. You know, we usually are among the most injured teams in the league. And when you look at games lost to injuries, we're usually pretty high up on the list every single year. Well, last year was an aberration. Now, we went 7-9. It's not like we went 10-6, but still, we couldn't have achieved 7-9 even, you know, with the first year head coach and a bunch of, turnover on the roster, a lot of young players, and 4 different quarterbacks starting for us throughout various portions of the season. We wouldn't have even gotten to 7 wins had we not had guys be relatively healthy. Obviously, the quarterback position was ravaged by injuries in Washington, but outside of that, we were pretty much healthy the entire season. That said, this year it's been polar opposite. And it really started when our head trainer, Ryan Vermillion, had to be, trying to word this correctly, put on administrative leave due to a pending investigation with the DEA. So we've seen a ton of injuries around the league. And one of the teams that I feel like is really being impacted by injuries is the Cleveland Browns. And they've got a big one on Thursday. And it kind of goes into that discussion of Thursday night football. Is it a good thing for the players? It's a great product for the NFL. It's great for us as fans. It gives us another day to have football, all of that good stuff. But when the product is impacted, is it really something that you want to see? Like, I'm not clamoring for this game on Thursday. Who wants to see Case Keenum take on? And we don't even know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to play. He's dealing with an injury. And because it's a short week, he may not be able to play with a foot injury. Like, who wants to see, Drew Lock versus, and hell, I don't want to see either one of those guys. Honestly, Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, but who wants to see either one of those guys versus Case Keenum on Thursday night? Who's clamoring for that? Mind you, the Browns already were without both of their starting running backs in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Now they're without Baker Mayfield, who's been ruled out of this game as well with an injury he sustained earlier in the season and tried to play through it. He further injured that injury, exacerbated it on Sunday when he got hit by J.J. Watt. And so he's out of this game. He thought he would be able to play. And if it were Sunday, he probably would have been able to gut it out. But it's Thursday, so he's not able to play. Odell Beckham Jr. has been a massive disappointment. If you're a Browns fan, I'm pretty sure you're like, hey, this guy can go. Not now, like right now. I mean, he's really done nothing since he's gotten to Cleveland. And that's I'm probably overstating that a bit. You know, it's not that he's done nothing. He's always been hurt. And I don't think he's been worth the hype. When it's all said and done, he's had some big drops in some critical situations. He had a 4th down drop, a couple of weeks ago versus the Chargers. Just doesn't seem to be a guy that is super reliable, whether it's, just catching the football. He'll make these crazy one-handed grabs before the game and then miss and drop an easy two-hand, catch in the game. But it's also not being available because of injury. And he's had some injury issues since getting to Cleveland. I think that's a guy they'll look to try to move this offseason. But they tell me that the Browns aren't missing Jarvis Landry. I said, that's the guy that can ill afford to miss. I mean, that's the guy that needs to be in their lineup because he's the heart and soul of that football team. He's the energy. He's the tough guy. He's the, junkyard dog. He does every single thing, catch, run, block. He even throws it. We've seen him throw it a bunch over the last few years and be highly successful in that role as well. So they miss him more than anybody else. And he hasn't played a single game for them this season due to injury. So he'll be back here shortly. He just was activated off of IR or at least made eligible to come back. I think they got 21 days from last week when they put him out there. So at practice. So we'll see what happens with the Browns. They've really been decimated by injuries. And then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, their very impressive rookie out of Notre Dame, he just injured himself. He was just placed on IR. They've had some guys on the offensive line go down to injury. The Browns are the walking wounded right now, and it's going to be tough to see how they put a team on the field that is going to be able to win. But the Broncos have been struggling themselves. They've dealt with some injuries this year. Okay, so they're hoping to get Jerry Jeudy back here shortly. But they just lost KJ Hamler like 2 weeks ago for the season. Teddy Bridgewater, they didn't know if he was going to play this past week. The week before that, they weren't sure if he was going to be able to play because he sustained a concussion versus the Ravens. Now he's got a foot injury. Bradley Chubb has been out since like week 2 or 3 and is on IR right now. So they're dealing with a ton of injuries themselves. They just got Ronald Darby back from injury off of IR. They've been a really banged up team. And these are teams that started off the season really well. Now they're struggling. And both teams are 3-3, and they're going to need this game. We'll talk more about it a little bit later on in Thursday Night Look Ahead. But injuries are a big part of the NFL. We know that. Seattle, a prime example. Look, they were already struggling before Russell Wilson got injured. But without Russell Wilson, there was this rumor circulating that, hey, they were interested in Cam Newton. I don't see the benefit in that, especially with Russ healing a little bit faster than anyone expected. But I mean, honestly, what is Cam going to do for you in this short period of time? There's only so much you can put in the game plan that he'll be able to digest and get on the field and really be able to execute at a high level. So I just didn't see a lot of validity to that. But I mean, that injury could cripple their season for good. I mean, by the time he comes back, they lose 4 straight with him out, which is a very realistic possibility. I don't think it'll happen. They got Jacksonville and some winnable games on the schedule. They may even beat the Saints this week. Who knows? But they're coming off of a bye week. They should get some of their players back. Speaking of injuries, the Saints, the fact that they're 3-2 with all the injuries that they had, the Saints don't want to hear anybody crying about injuries. All the injuries that they've had, all the guys they had on IR and the PUP list and things of that nature. And the fact that they're at 3-2 right now with all the injuries speaks volumes about their depth and really their coaching. Sean Payton has done a fantastic job of keeping them afloat. What about the Buccaneers? Are there injuries in the secondary? I mean, the list goes on and on. What about the Giants? I mean, they weren't playing great football, before these injuries cropped up, but Saquon Barkley dealing with another injury, this time to his ankle. Daniel Jones sustained a concussion in game. He didn't miss any games, all right, but he hurt him in that Cowboys game. They were in that game until Daniel Jones went down, okay? What about, their receiver position? At 1 week, they had 3 guys out at the receiver position, their top 3 receivers at that. I mean, but they still went and won, which is crazy that week. Or 2 out of their 3 top receivers. I think they did have They did have Kenny Golladay against the Saints, but Kadarius Toney and John Ross had to step up against the Saints. But, the injuries have been a big deal. You look at the Buccaneers secondary, you could argue that's why they lost to the Rams. That secondary was decimated. You look at the Cowboys. They've played really well. Dak Prescott, luckily enough for them, he strained his calf, but by all reports, he should be fine. They got a bye week. It couldn't have come at a better time because I don't know if he would have been able to play, next week. But because they're on a bye week, I think they're on a bye. If I'm not mistaken, they're on a bye. I know they have, let me check. I know they've got the Vikings who will be coming off of a bye in week number 8. See if the Cowboys are on a bye as well. Yes, Cowboys are on a bye. Both them and the Vikings are on a bye, and they'll both meet each other week 8 on Sunday Night Football on Halloween night. So, thank goodness for them. They don't have a game this week. He might have been out with a strained calf muscle. Remember, he had a calf injury in camp along with his shoulder. So, these injuries can really impact you. The Browns are really feeling it, and we'll see if they're able to kind of navigate their way through all these injuries. But again, nobody feels sorry for anybody in this league. It's a war of attrition. Everyone's dealing with injuries. You just got to find a way to get it done. I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to navigate your way through injuries when you've got one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. Much, much easier when you got a top 5 guy. A lot harder when you don't have anybody. That's when the injuries really start to show up. So anyway, I digress. Let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. See what you guys have to say. Remember, if you're out there and you want to have your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have that done. If you want to jump to the front of the line, super chats are the way to do that. You know what it is. So let's get to the comments. And I want to give a shout out to HTTR Carson for being the first in the comment section. Big ups to HTTR Carson. Thank you for being the first in the comment section. We start off today with Emperor Meech, who writes, "You say we should have been embarrassed on Sunday, but I had a big nefarious smile on my face all game." I can imagine, because you've been wanting to see this thing blow the hell up, really from the word go. So he says, "I loved every bit of it. Hashtag watching this shit burn. Hashtag the Joker wins this one." Yeah. And I could imagine you at home watching the second quarter when the Rams exploded for 28 points and with every touchdown, that grin, you know how the grin usually sits there and then his face turns from, looking regular to a devilish grin. And it goes all the way up his face. I kind of envision you being like that, watching the Rams run it up in the second quarter. So I don't know if it'll be enough. I feel like if this season continues trending in the direction that it's going in, I think Dave Gettleman at minimum is gone. I don't know if it's a whole total clean house situation, but Joe Judge, I told you I was a massive Joe Judge fan when he first got the job. I didn't know what a dictator he was. And I don't know if I'm a big fan of his now. So we'll see what happens. Niners fan writes, "Lou, I watched the episode where you talked about Washington football team schedule. Said to myself, hell, we aren't done yet. Got a ton of winnable football games down the stretch coming for that 7th seed." And that's essentially what I've tried to tell Washington fans. But I'm talking to a team like y'all as well. If you can figure out a way to get your defense playing good football and get this offense up to speed, which is probably more of the problem than the defense right now, is the offense and its production. Why not? The NFC is wide open in terms of the back end. Like, it's top heavy is the NFC. Like, you're not going to make any noise when you get there, but you just want to get there. But you're not going to beat Tampa Bay. You're not going to you could beat Arizona. That's family business. You're probably not going to beat the Rams, but that's family business again. Probably not going to beat Green Bay, but who knows? You never know, right? But it's top heavy. They're good teams. Dallas is a good team right now. Green Bay is a good team right now. Tampa Bay is a good team. The Rams are a good team. The Cardinals are a good team right now. It's top heavy. But after that, there's 2 spots open. I'm not sold on Carolina or New Orleans or Minnesota or any of these teams, Atlanta, none of these teams. I'm not sold on any of them to really do serious damage and run away with either one of those wild card spots. So why can't San Francisco, who's sitting there at 2-3 or whatever your record is, why can't they make a run at it? Why can't Washington at 2-4 make a run at it? Why can't the Eagles at 2-4 say, why not us? And that's all I was trying to convey to the Washington fans. And you probably said to yourself, yeah, why not us? Shit's open. Why not us? That's my point exactly. Black Al B writes, what it do, Lou? What it do, Black Al B? He says, why can't Kirk nephews ever get any love when he's doing good? Because all people, so first of all, he'll never get any love from Washington fans who didn't love him when he was in Washington. They'll always hate on him. Second of all, people look at Kirk Cousins and they see the contract. They don't see Kirk Cousins. They don't see what he does for the Minnesota Vikings football team. They just see the contract. He ain't worth all that. And then third thing is, and this might be the most important thing, and he has absolutely zero to do with this, but people don't take that stuff into consideration. They don't take that stuff into account. Is that they looked at the Minnesota Vikings prior to him getting there and they said they were in the NFC Championship and Kirk Cousins was supposed to put him over the top. He comes in and they regress and they haven't even been remotely close to getting back to the NFC Championship since he got there. So I think that in itself is one of the biggest reasons people shit on Kirk Cousins and don't want to give him any credit. As they say, the Vikings were literally one game away from the biggest game in the sport. They go get Kirk Cousins to put him over the top, and they've regressed every year since, essentially. They won a playoff game a couple of years ago. Nobody wants to talk about that, where he was huge in going to New Orleans and upsetting the Saints. Nobody wants to talk about that. They just want to talk about all the times that he throws an interception late or the team struggles offensively, and he's to blame. But again, I'm going to give him credit when he deserves it, and he's been spectacular this year, just like last year. He was spectacular for this team. The defense was awful last year, and your field goal kicking situation was even worse last season. Young defense, no Danielle Hunter, a bunch of guys out last year. The defense was young. Corners, secondary was extremely young. This is a different team this year. I still have my doubts about that defense. Still have my doubts about that team. I still have my doubts about Greg Joseph. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names as a field goal kicker. There's still a lot of questions about the Vikings, but I don't think Kirk Cousins and the skill players, especially with KJ Osborne playing the way that he's playing, I don't think they're the question, okay? I don't think they need to be in that discussion. I think it's more along the lines of the defense and special teams, but that's just me. That's just me. Jay Lee writes, offering a double up. I miss Peyton Barber. We would have had more touchdowns and third down efficiency with him than without him. I mean, I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. What's done is done. But I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say it again later on tonight. I feel the same exact way about Dustin Hopkins being let go and them promoting Chris Blewett from the practice squad to the active roster as I did when they released Peyton Barber and kept Jaret Patterson. I'm not going to be upset about it. I'm going to allow this thing to play itself out. I understand why they did it, but if it doesn't work, you're going to hear my mouth. Same thing with the and I do think that we've been hurt because there were situations last year that we would have run it, that we didn't run it this year because I don't think they feel like they've got a back that's capable of doing that. Like, I give you a great example, 3rd and 2 against the Chiefs. Why didn't we run it? I guarantee you if Peyton Barber were here, we would have run it. And he would have got the first down. This year, they're throwing it on 3rd and 2. That's a problem for me. A big problem. But I digress. JP writes, Watson reportedly headed to Miami and Houston gets a bunch of picks. Washington is reported third party involved that could land Tua. Washington flirted with drafting him in 2022. I don't know if there's any validity to that. I mean, that was a rumor that really was old, like a month and a half, 2 months ago old, where right when the season started, that rumor surfaced. I remember there was a press conference with Dolphins head coach Brian Flores where he literally had to walk off of the platform where the interview was being conducted because all they wanted to do was ask him about a potential Watson trade. And he said, look, I'm here coaching the guys that are here. And he talked about, he ran off a couple of names and then he stormed off the stage. I don't know if there's any validity to that or not, honestly. I like what I've seen from Tua, but we know the problem with Tua is he's injury prone. I'd take Tua, though, in a heartbeat. I mean, I don't know what you'd have to give up to get him, but I'm interested in him. I think Tua can play ball. I think if you can, and our offensive line has done a great job of protecting. Like, that's all Tua needs is time. He can handle the rest. I would be interested in that. Honestly, I would be. But again, what scares me with him is that he's oft injured. That's the only thing. The talent has never been in question with Tua. It's just, can he stay upright? I thought he was excellent. I told you guys this yesterday on the podcast. I thought he was excellent against the Jaguars over in London last week. I tell you this, if a trade was going to happen for Watson, now would be the time because the Dolphins are on a bye week. So if something were to take place, now would be the time. I still don't think that he gets traded in season, but with the Dolphins season going the way that it's going right now, if I'm the Texans, yeah, I'll make the deal. And then you hope after the deal is made, the league steps in and suspends him. That's what you hope. And then they continue to stink, right? They lose 14 games this season, and you get their first round pick. That's what you're hoping this year, next year, and probably the year after that. But you're more concerned with this year because you can't control what happens next year when Watson actually plays, and the year after that, those picks will probably be somewhere in the 20s because he's that damn good. But in terms of what that pick is going to look like this year, that's why you don't trade him until the offseason, because you want to know exactly what you're getting. And if you trade him now, you don't know what you're getting. That's why I thought that the trade was going to happen before the draft, but they weren't committed to moving him at that time. Now, you put yourself in a position where you don't know. You're trading him blindly. You ever seen the show Buy It Blind, where you essentially give, real estate agents a big lump sum of money, and you say, hey, go find me a house within this budget. And they go find you a house, and you may not like the house, but this is the house they envision. You tell them all the things you want. They go out, they get it, and maybe you give them a budget to fix it up. And that's the premise of the show. Is you give them, you tell them what the budget is, they go find a house, they clean it up, and voila, there it is. All right. That's what you would essentially be doing if you trade him right now, is you don't know what you're going to get for him. He could go to Miami, not be suspended, turn their season around, and you end up with the 20th pick in the draft, 21st pick in the draft. They make it as a 7 seed in the AFC, and you get the 20th pick in the draft or 21st pick in the draft. Well, that sucks. Now, doesn't it? Instead of waiting, letting the Dolphins suck all season long, end up 5-11. They got the 4th pick in the draft. And then you say, hey, about Deshaun Watson, let's say we make a deal. You want him? We want the 4th pick in the draft. Let's make it happen. I think that's what more likely than not happens if I'm the Texans, at least. We'll see. But I don't think anything's going to happen, to be honest with you. Captain Spartan 04. Thank you for the super chat. Super chat. Speaking of super chats, let me make sure I don't have any, and I don't. Captain Spartan writes, let's see if I can remember all the questions, even though I never do. Someone mentioned Sunday night, but geez, AFC loaded. The whole AFC North, Titans, Colts, Bills, and AFC West. What's the question? I don't see a question there. I just see you making a statement. Anyway, let me make sure. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna just keep going. Rich says, ouch, Browns are almost on Ravens level of hurt. This is crazy. Lamar saves the Ravens, but right now, but without him, we would have to consider the Bengals as a playoff team. And again, I didn't even mention the Ravens, but you're so right. They were decimated by injuries, especially at the running back position. But what Lamar Jackson allows you to do is just to go out and get anybody at running back. So they went and got a bunch of veterans, Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman and Le'Veon Bell, and they brought all of these veterans in, and these guys can hold down the fort. Why? Because you got to respect number 8 as a runner. So that opens up lanes for those guys that wouldn't normally be there because they wouldn't command the respect that, what's the name of the running back from Ohio State? J.K. Dobbins would command. They wouldn't command what Gus Edwards would command in terms of respect. So you're right. Yeah, that's another team that's really, overcome injuries. And again, like I said, you can do that when you have a top 10 quarterback. It's a lot easier when you have a top 5 quarterback. In the case of Lamar Jackson, probably got a top 7 quarterback. And the closer the guy is to the top of the NFL quarterback food chain, the easier it is to overcome injuries. And that's why the Ravens are 5-1 right now instead of 1-5, because they got Lamar Jackson. If they didn't have Lamar Jackson, if it was Joe Flacco, they'd be 1-5 right now, if not 0-6. And you still need to consider the Bengals a playoff team. Like, don't write them off. They're 4-2. They're playing confident football. They could easily be 6-0 right now. Easily be 6-0. I don't think they've gotten their asses handed to them this season yet. I do know they lost to the Bears. They should have won that game. And I don't recall who the second loss is to. I would assume it was a good team, though. Anyway. Captain Spartan 04 writes, you can call me Louisville bias, but I don't think Teddy is the problem. I think it's Josie Jewell and Bradley Chubb out. Vic's defense relies heavily on the middle linebackers, Vaughn missing Chubb. That could be it too. I mean, honestly, to me, Teddy's still a problem. It's why the Panthers gave him away this offseason for next to nothing. It's why he was the backup in New Orleans, and they decided to move on from him and let him go elsewhere, and then they ended up getting Jameis Winston. It's why I don't think, ever be the preferred starter anywhere he goes. He'll be an exceptional backup quarterback, but you'll always be looking for better than Teddy. And I've told you, there's a cap on how many points the Broncos can score. Now, maybe when they play Washington, because right now, Washington is the worst scoring defense in the league, and they may score 35 next week against Washington. But against everybody else, the cap is 27. Well, guess what? And if the Broncos were what we thought they were going to be defensively, that'd be plenty every week. And it was enough the first 3 weeks when they were playing bad teams. But when you play better teams, if you're playing better defensive teams, you're not scoring your max against good defensive teams. You're going to score much less. You're going to score 13. You're going to score 17. You're going to score 10. Like they did against the Ravens. They scored 7. Okay? When you max out your offense, when you're playing a bad defense, it's still 24 or 27. That's not good enough because teams like the Raiders can score 34, which is why they lost on Sunday. Teams like the Chiefs can score 37. It'll be tough for them to beat Kansas City. Like, you've got to be able to score points, and the Broncos just don't for whatever reason. And it's hard. You want to place blame somewhere specifically. It's hard because every time you look up, Teddy's super efficient. A lot of times, though, I look at the yards per attempt, and I'm like, that's the problem right there. Yep, he's got 338 yards passing, but it took him, 47 attempts to do it. But he's always super efficient. But anyway, I digress. I think it's Teddy. You may be Louisville biased. You might be right. Captain Spartan writes, yeah, the Browns are going to win just because of Case Keenum is a good fit for the stretch, but not the whole season. Also, he wants revenge against Broncos and knows Kevin's offense. I did say this in the preseason, that Case Keenum was the perfect backup for the Cleveland Browns. I also said that the Browns are a very well-coached ball club. And in times like this, in times of crisis, like the ones the Browns are going through right now, this is when, if you don't have, a big-time quarterback to bail you out, if you don't have your stable of backs that have been exceptional. This is when you need to have a coach that can get you out of a rut with some creative play calling and have the team ready to survive without star players. And I think Kevin Stefanski's done a really good job since getting the job in Cleveland. And this will be a great test to see just how good of a coach he is. Because if they win this game, it's coaching. It's definitely not the players. It's coaching. They win this game. Rich says, what's up with my guys making stupid, costly plays on primetime? First Tavon Young, then DK. I'm a Washington fan, and I was livid when Young did that. I mean, that's how you get cut and don't return. So I'll just tell you this. You were mad. I had something on the line. My life in my Soul Survivor pool was on the line. When he pushed that guy and they got in the field goal range, I lost my shit because they could have lost the game because of that. And I get it. Football is a very emotional sport. It's physical, it's taxing, it's grueling. And so when somebody takes a cheap shot, your first instinct, there's a ton of testosterone and adrenaline flowing. Your first instinct is to get back at the dude that just took a cheap shot. So when Jack Doyle is getting up and he decides to push your head down, like just imagine a grown-ass man taking the palm of his hand, other than being spat on. There isn't a more degrading sign of disrespect from another man to another man than a whole entire man's grown-ass hand taking his palm of his hand and putting it in your face and just smushing your ass and pushing you back. That's essentially what Jack Doyle did, but to his head as he's getting up. He took that as a sign of disrespect. I get it, but you can't react that way in that moment. The game's on the line, bro. And DK Metcalf, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. I don't think he was, frankly. And that's why you need a Russell Wilson on the field. When you got Geno Smith on the field, Geno, I can't say this with 100% certainty, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't think Geno told a soul in that huddle, hey, if you catch this in bounds, you got to get down. We don't have any timeouts. We got to spike this thing. If you're near out of bounds, get out of bounds. I don't think he laid down the law in that huddle before that pass was thrown. Not that he should have to. They're all grown-ass men. They should know situational football and the fact that we don't have any timeouts, but sometimes guys don't know. So, yeah. Those could have been costly plays, but they turned out not to be. Got a super chat from Stephen Combs. Thank you for the super chat. And also, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Stephen Combs, writes, sup, Lou and family. Sup, Stephen. He says, deploying soon to Europe for a few months. Won't be back till the end of the season. Miss y'all in the mob. Hey, you know, we MOBB. Well, we're going to hold you down, Stephen, and just be safe. Take care of yourself. And we'll be here waiting when you get back, man. And really appreciate you and all that you do. So we're going to hold you down in the mob, man. Really appreciate you, though, Stephen. Stay safe, without question. Mob, show Steve some love, man, on the way out. Captain Spartan 04 writes, tomorrow will also be a battle of two great Texas A&M Aggies, Von Miller versus Myles Garrett, which makes me ask, who's been the edge rusher you've seen coming out of college since JPEP? Who's been the best? I think it's Von Miller. I think that guy's been Von Miller. He's been the preeminent rusher in the league since he's come out. And when he's healthy, I've seen this guy, think about the Super Bowl year. He literally was the reason they won that game. He harassed Cam that game, made arguably the biggest play of the game where he stripped Cam of the football. I've seen Von Miller take over games. Not that Myles Garrett hasn't, but I haven't seen him do it in the way that Von Miller has done it, you know. Garrett is really good, though. He's right there. I mean, I think he's leading the league in sacks this year. I mean, obviously, he had that crazy game against the Bears where he had like 4.5 sacks when the Bears had like 41 yards of total offense. And I think that was Justin Fields' first career start or whatever. But, I mean, Garrett has been a man beast this year. And they're both exceptional pass rushers. But for me, Von Miller's that dude. When he's healthy, he's that guy still. Captain Spartan writes, did you see Dolphins still aggressively pursuing Watson? To me, Tua reminds me a lot of Steve Young. Left-handed, early injuries, bad first team. I think he'll have a resurgence like Steve, resurgence too, like Steve. I don't know if they're really going to do it or not. I can tell you this. I am a massive fan of Tua Tagovailoa. Remember what my preseason declaration was, that he would be, of that 2020 draft class of quarterbacks, he would be the best this season. Not overall, not for the rest of his career, but this season, he would be the best of the three guys in question, Burrow, Herbert, and Tua. He would be the best of the three. I thought he got off to a solid start week one. Then he got injured, and I thought he looked good against the Jags again. I thought he was exceptional. Threw for over 300 yards, used his legs, got down and slid, didn't take any unnecessary shots. I thought he hung in the pocket, delivered the football under duress. I thought Tua looked good. I really, really did. So I don't know what's going to become of that situation if the Dolphins truly are involved in trying to get their hands on Deshaun Watson or not. But I'll be anxious to see where Tua ends up, or is he a part of that deal? Do the Texans want him back in exchange and want to build around him, or are they like, nah, we want to get our own guy. We're good. Just give us the draft picks instead. So that'll be interesting to see how that all works out. Rich says, glad we got rid of Dustin Hopkins. I hope this guy is better, even a little. But since they did this, though, I trust he's better. You're better than me. I don't trust anything until I see it. So we'll see what happens. I think they just were fed up with Dustin Hopkins, to be honest. That was the last straw, because his missed field goal was really the turning point of the game against the Chiefs. We're going to lose that game anyway, But I think JP Finley made a great point, and I'll save that for later on tonight on the show. JP writes, missed your shows the last couple of weeks because of baseball playoffs, and I was on vacation. Not going to lie, I hate what has transpired with all the Washington drama lately. You should be used to it, though. I mean, you probably saw it and said, there we go again with that bullshit. So it's not a big deal. Only one rail, right? So what do you think about the rumors of Washington football team getting Tua? Again, I haven't heard many of them, but as stated by my guy JP earlier, I'm all for it. I think Tua is a really good young prospect at the quarterback position. I'll just say this, and I don't feel bashful about this. I feel 100% confident about this statement I'm about to make, and I could totally be wrong. And these quarterbacks could be vindicated down the road. He's better than any quarterback that's coming out in this year's draft. So if you're Washington and you look at the draft landscape of quarterbacks, you say, can we get a guy better than this in the draft? The answer is hell no, not no, hell no. So if you got a chance to go out and get a player like that, you got to do it. That's what I think. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know anything. I haven't heard any rumors, so I don't even know what you guys are talking about. So until something like that actually goes down, I don't think Washington's really involved. But if this were to take place, it's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks because the trade deadline is vastly approaching. We had this discussion last week about the trade deadline. I thought this was going to be a very active trade deadline because I think a lot of teams feel like it's wide open this year. We got a shot, and we may need a piece or two here or there that can maybe put us over the top. Unlike past years where you're like, man, ain't nobody beating the Chiefs in the AFC. Chiefs are not the Chiefs right now. So everybody probably looking around scrambling like, shit, why can't we get it done this year? I just feel like the trade deadline might be a little bit more active this year. We'll see, though. Bentley Goodwin writes, why do you only say never trust a man with two first names when talking about Curtis Samuel, but not when you bring up Logan Thomas, Cornelius Lucas, or William Jackson? Because I don't consider those to be last names or first names. That's why. I don't consider Jackson a first name. That's a last name. I didn't grow up with a Jackson in my classroom in the first grade. If it was Jackson, that was his last name. All right. Cornelius Lucas, I've said many a times with him, never trust a man with two first names, with Cornelius Lucas. I say it all the time when I reference him. Logan Thomas, I don't consider Thomas to be a first name. It goes both ways. It's just beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And in this particular case, what a name is, what it constitutes first or last or both, It's up to the person using it. Thomas, I grew up with Thomas being a last name, not a first name. Now, I've known guys with the name Thomas, growing up, but I knew a lot more people with the last name Thomas than that being their first name. So, for whatever it's worth, Curtis Samuel, there's no doubt that those are two first names. I don't think anybody considers Samuel a last name, a consistent last name. Like, it's not the first time you've probably seen someone. I've seen Samuels with an S. That's a last name. No one's first name is Samuels. Samuel is a first name. So that's why. We'll take a couple more. Got a super chat here from Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat, Big Money Sonny. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, sorry, Lou, I didn't come through after the KC game. Frustration kicked in, and I decided to enjoy the rest of the games. Anyhow, salutes, brother. No doubt, you don't have to apologize, man. Not everyone is able to handle losses the same, And I told you if I weren't doing what I was doing, I don't know if I would make it to every one of these after the game, especially if I'm really upset. Like I said, the Saints game was the most frustrating for me. And I ranted and raved, and I was yelling and screaming after that game because I told you, and I've said this before, when I expect us to win, which is not very often, but when I expect us to win and we don't, that's more frustrating than when I already expected us to lose and then we go and lose. Even if we were close in the game and had a chance to win, I never expected us to win the game anyway. So I wasn't as invested emotionally because in my mind, I told myself, bro, we're not winning this game anyway. I don't care how well we're playing. We're not going to win this game anyway. When I go into the game thinking we should beat this team, and then they give us every opportunity to beat them, and we say, no, we're good. You go ahead and take the win. That's frustrating. So, yeah, no doubts. Thank you for the super chat, Big Money Sonny. It's just always good to hear from you, regardless. Niners fan writes, what do you think the win number for that 7 seed in the NFC? 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins? No. It's 9. That last 7 seed, the most it'll be is 10. With that 17th game, it may be 10 and 7. But it's no less than 9. I don't think an 8 and 9 team gets in. It's 9 and 8 or 10 and 7. That 7 seed is not winning 11 games. Not happening. No way, no how. That 7 seed is I think gonna be a 9 and 8 team, which is why I say we got a shot. But if we don't beat Denver in 2 weeks, we don't got a shot because that would put you at 7 losses because you're going to lose to Tampa Bay after the bye week. That'll put you at 7 losses, and then that means essentially you got to win your final 7 out of 8 games, and that's not happening. If you're Washington, you're not winning 7 out of 8 to wrap up your season, even with your final 5 games being NFC East games. You're not winning 7 out of your final 8. So you got to give yourself a little bit of room and margin for error. So Rich writes, the last 2 games of our front 7, he says the last 2 games, our front 7 has been pretty good. We need the secondary to hold their own. You might be right saying the league passed JDR and WJ3. Who's a man corner by playing zone? I don't know if the league's passed JDR by or not. I said that in passing as a throwaway line. I can't confirm nor deny that. I don't know. I just know I see a defense struggling to do the simple things correct. That has nothing to do with the league passing Jack Del Rio by. When you can't play cover 3 correctly, when you can't get the proper depth in the zone drop, when your eyes are betraying you and you're looking in the wrong spot and the guy runs right by you when you should be running with him, that has nothing to do with the scheme or the play caller. That's all on the player not executing the play call. And I've seen too much of that this year with this defense. And I don't care if William Jackson III is better at man or zone. He's getting his ass cooked in both. So it doesn't really matter. Zone, man, he's getting his ass ate alive in both situations. So I don't think it's a JDR problem as much as it is these players have to be accountable and start making plays, period. which I don't know if they're going to do because I don't know if we have playmakers on our team. And I think that's the biggest issue. Virginia Slim, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Virginia Slim writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, Virginia?" He says, "Is the outrage justifiable at Mahomes' little brother for dancing on Sean Taylor's number?" I talked about that on the show yesterday, Washington Football Nightly. Honestly, I said, I don't want to give this dude the time of day. He's thirsty, like a lot of these young Thundercats out here in these streets. He's looking for clout, and TikTok and Snap and IG is a way for guys like him to get the attention that they seek. The thing that makes me upset is that you've done nothing to be in the spotlight nor the limelight. Your dad was a ball player, your brother's a ball player, and you just a guy. But he's living a life off of what everybody else is doing. I refuse to give the man the time of day because he don't mean shit to me. So I refuse to sit here and talk about this dude more than I have to. Only reason I'm talking about him now is because you asked, and only reason I talked about him on the show yesterday is because I had like 10 people want to know how I felt about it, and I personally don't give a shit. Half of the blame goes to Washington, half of the blame goes to him because they had them standing on the 21. It's not like they had it roped off so that no one should touch it. They literally told them to stand there. So him dancing on it is really inconsequential, if you ask me. Should he have done it? No. Was he aware? Maybe. Probably should have been aware. But young kids are selfish and ignorant. So was he thinking about that in the moment? No, he wasn't. I don't think he was, to be honest with you. But I don't really care for his apology. I don't care for the Washington football team's apology, for all of it. None of it. I don't care about any of it, personally. And I don't think that either one of them, I don't really accept either one of their apologies. But I don't care. So it doesn't matter. The bottom line is he should be more aware of what he's doing. But when you're selfish and you're immature, you're not thinking about anybody but yourself. And that's pretty much how that situation went down. Vincent Coe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Vincent Coe. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB Rights. It's crazy that to be a top team in the NFL, you got to have 4 to 5 legit options on offense like the Cardinals or Bills. Damn, not true. You got to have an elite quarterback and have at least 2 options. And anything more than that, really, if you've got 3 options to get the football to, upper tier, not elite, upper tier options, and you got an elite top 10 quarterback, you got a shot. Kyler Murray's playing like a top 10 quarterback. I think he'll penetrate that this year if he continues playing the way that he's playing. As you mentioned, they got a ridiculous amount of talent and guys to get the football to. It was crazy when yesterday I was listing off all the stuff they had. It felt like I went on for about 30 seconds. DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green and Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore, and now they're going to have Zach Ertz. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Then, the Bills, same thing. Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and Gabe Davis, and Dawson Knox, and the list goes on and on. They could throw it to their backs out of the backfield too. Yeah. I mean, the Cowboys, look at what they got. I mean, got a top 10 type quarterback in Dak Prescott. I think he's top 10. If not, he's right there. And then you got Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. I think Cedric Wilson's playing out of his gourd right now. And you still don't even have my man back from injury yet. And that's the reason Cedric Wilson is getting all of these opportunities. So they got weapons. And I didn't even mention the 2 tight ends that they have. So, yeah. If you're an elite offense, you probably got a bunch of weapons. But the Packers don't have a bunch of dudes. They don't have – the Chiefs don't have a bunch of dudes. They got 2 dudes, and then everybody else kind of just fills in spot duty through the Chiefs. Same thing with the Packers. They got like 2 dudes, and everybody else just fills in spot duty. And you might be saying to yourself, who's the Packers other dude? Did I miss somebody? Randall Cobb's fine. Robert Tonyan's fine. I mean, you could use one of those two guys if you like. Every now and again, you'll get a crazy game from Marquez Valdez Scantling. MVS will show up. Every now and again, Alan Lazard will show up, but those guys aren't consistent. But you got Aaron Rodgers, so you're fine. Buccaneers, same deal as you just mentioned, though. Bucks, Brady, and then you've got 87 receivers to get the football to. Mike Evans and Antonio Brown and the young fella in his second year out of Minnesota. I can't think of his name. Chris Godwin. And then you go Cameron Brayton. You got Gronk. Yeah, if you've got an elite offense, more likely than not, you got a ridiculous amount of talent at the skill positions. And then you probably got a top 10 quarterback pulling the string, which also helps. So you're absolutely right. Same thing with the Rams as well. You know, got a top 10-ish quarterback in Matthew Stafford. And then I think he's top 10. And everybody can't be top 10. I've just said like, oh, I think he's top 10. I think there are only 10 spots. It doesn't really matter. If we think the guy's top 10, even if he's 12, but he's in that because it's so hard with some of these quarterbacks. You put them in whatever order you want. The bottom line is Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Deshaun Jackson, Van Jefferson. I mean, they're loaded, man. And I really like their tight end position too. Well, one of their tight ends in particular, in Tyler Higbee. So, yeah, you're spot on with that assessment. It's crazy. Anyway, I digress. Zach LaRoche, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Zach LaRoche, writes, David Culley seems like the perfect Snyder era Washington coach. In my nightmares, he comes here after Ron. He's not getting another job after he gets canned in Houston. That was a kamikaze mission. He was set up to fail. I feel bad for him. He waited this long opportunity to get a chance, but this was probably the only job he was ever going to get. So he had to take it, and he's a lifer. So, it is what it is, but you're right. You don't want any parts of David Culley. I don't think you're right about this. He won't be in Washington, but I don't want a guy anything remotely close to being like him. Heard he's an excellent guy, you know, the perfect person, the best coach that a lot of these players have ever had and been coached by. I don't think he's the right man to be a head coach, though. But I could be wrong. Texas could turn it around. Who knows? We'll see. That would be a nightmare, though. Gunny Man, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Gunny Man, writes, it's a shame to say, but at week 7, this team needs to go back to step 1 fundamental football. On offense, establish a run and play off of that. On D, get out of all of this junk scheme and make offense reactions to you. Good defenses dictate tempo, pace, and what's going to be done. You know, now there's a way to combat that as an offense. Oh, you want to blitz? Well, take this screen. Oh, you want to blitz? Take this slant right behind your head. Off to the races we go. Oh, you want to blitz? Zero coverage? No help on the safety? All right, I'm going to go ahead and take this one-on-one matchup on the outside, throw it to my guy deep and see if your guy can win one-on-one because my guy can't. Like, there's ways to, to really put a team in a compromising position. That said, I feel like as a defense, you should be dictating what you want done. On 3rd and 7, you shouldn't be sitting back waiting. You force a team to do what you want them to do. You want them to throw it underneath and rally up and tackle. You got to force that to happen. Got to get pressure. You'd like to do it with 4, but we're not doing that right now. So anyway. And yeah, on offense, establish the run. That's not Scott Turner. And I've said that enough. It's not Scott Turner. We've had games this season. Last week, a great example where we ran the hell out of the football and we didn't run it enough. We averaged 5 yards a pop. And he just, for whatever reason, 3rd and 2, he wants to throw it 4 yards, 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage to Adam Humphries. Why? When you could just run it and get the first down. I don't understand. But I told you, his situational awareness kills me. I love him as a play caller. I hate his situational awareness. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Big Money Sonny, greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou just tagged you on Twitter regarding a move that involves a 3-team trade that would land Tua on Washington football team. Fitz and Tua together again, ? Again, 3 or 4 people have brought it up to me. I will read that story because I haven't heard any of it. This is the first I'm hearing of it since, when the season first started, when it was just this rumor that was floating around. I'll check it out. But again, I don't lend too much credence to it because I just don't see something like that massive of a trade happening in season. I just don't see it happening. But the Deshaun Watson situation is so unique that I wouldn't just say it won't happen, because this is a unique set of circumstances surrounding Deshaun Watson. So we'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for social media maneuvers. Let's quickly get to our final segment, garbage time. Thursday night look ahead. Browns, Broncos, or Broncos, Browns. Browns are at home. I talked about this already. They're without their, biggest offensive weapons. No Baker Mayfield, no Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt on the offensive side of the football. Case Keenum instead would be the starting quarterback for the Browns on Thursday. And I think he's capable of getting it done, but the Broncos are starving for a win. They've lost 3 straight after winning 3 straight. I think that defense is good enough to go out there and dominate this game, dictate this game, and control it and win on the road against the Cleveland Browns. It'll be interesting to see if Teddy Bridgewater is able to play. Still haven't really heard the latest on his foot injury. If Drew Lock plays, the Browns are going to win. If Teddy Bridgewater plays, he's going to take care of the football, then the Broncos win. So I'm going to give you a 2-way go of this thing. If Drew Lock plays, Browns win this football game behind Case Keenum's steady hand and a still solid run game. And they've got some backs. Dearness Johnson can step up. I told you that kid, Demetric Felton, out of UCLA, he can play some ball. They've got enough stuff to get it done with Case Keenum if Drew Lock is at the helm. If it is Teddy Bridgewater, I think his steady hand will be the difference in the key. He won't turn it over. He won't take unnecessary sacks, and they'll have a chance to win that football game, and I'll go with the Broncos getting it done. So if Lock plays, give me the Browns 23-17 over the Broncos. If Teddy Bridgewater plays, give me the Broncos 26-17 over the Browns. So that is my prediction for the game. And that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 215th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I've got a super chat here from Gunnyman that'll take us out. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Gunnyman. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, so you saying we have another play caller more concerned with his system and not adjusting to the offensive players' strengths. I don't think it's necessarily him not adjusting to the strengths of the players. I think he's doing that. I don't think he is calling plays, appropriate plays for the situation that we're in at that moment in that game. Okay. We're running the football down the throats of the Chiefs. They can't stop us on the ground. Similar to the game against the Panthers last year. Great example. We were getting 6 and 7 a pop. They're playing this college football cockamamie 3-3-5 defense. We're running all over this thing, and he wants Dwayne Haskins to throw it like 25 times in the first half. Where's the psychological sense in that play? You need to wash your face and get your mind right. You got a 3rd and 2 against a Chiefs defense that's allowing you to run for 4 and 5 yards a pop, and yet you're going to throw it backwards and try to get a first down on 3rd and 2. Anyway, I said this before, and I don't know whose call it was, but if I'm Ron, I buzz up to Scott Turner and say, hey, Scott, this is 4 down territory. It's 3rd and 2. You got 2 downs to get 2 yards. Well, that tells Scott Turner I can run it here. I don't know if Ron addressed that or not. I don't know if Ron said to him, hey, this is 4 down territory. If you need 2 downs to do this, do it. But it should have been a run. Whether Ron told him that or not, should have been a run on 3rd and 2. That's my point. Not that he's not adjusting to the strength of the players. He just needs to call the appropriate plays at the right time. And I don't think he's doing that at this current moment. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 215th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Really appreciate you guys joining me for this show. Look forward to chopping it up with you on Friday when I will give you my picks and we will wrap up Thursday night football and among other topics. Should be a fun episode on Friday. If you're a Washington football team fan, I will see you tonight for Washington Football Nightly. And hopefully I will see you guys on Thursday night as well for Thursday night football overtime. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. If you want some of the kid, come get some. You see the championship strap in the back. I won the football pool last week. I'm hungry. I'm looking to go for a two-peat. If you think you can knock the kid off, you know where to meet me. Down in the description, you'll find a link to where you can sign up. But again, LouieTeeNetwork.net. Go to the LTN exclusives. Come get some. You know where you can find me. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.